What I want to do tonight is talk briefly about our wolf plan, but before that, I want to give you just a little bit of background. The Fish and Game Department hasn't always been involved with wolves. And the state legislature removed the Fish and Game Department from involvement with the federal actions as early as 1987, and then again restricted us in 1994, just prior to the wolves coming, or 1995, just prior to the wolves coming in 1995 and 1996. The idea being at that time that the states of Idaho, Montana, and Wyoming were all concerned about the way that the wolf recovery process was occurring. The legislature removed the state agencies, all three state agencies, from involvement. We became re-involved in 2002 after wolves had reached recovery levels in the three states, their third year being biologically recovered. The state legislature passed a state wolf management plan. And that state wolf management plan was acceptable to the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service to prepare for delisting, and the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service considers our state legislatively approved wolf management plan as an adequate regulatory mechanism, which is one of the legal requirements for delisting. With the full knowledge that the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service was prepared to delist wolves, the state became re-involved in 2002 and 2003, and the legislature changed the laws that allowed Fish and Game to be re-involved with wolf management. So at that time, we started working with the tribe and the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. The Nez Perce tribe had been working with the Fish and Wildlife Service to manage wolves in the state in the absence of the state Fish and Game agency. So in 2003, we started to kick it into gear. 2004, we hired personnel, we trained personnel, and we started working in partnership with the other agencies, USDA Wildlife Services, U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, and the Nez Perce tribe, and of course surrounding states and other federal agencies. So the idea was that we would get geared up. The U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service had proposed delisting as early as 2002. It was delayed, or in 2003 it was delayed for a number of reasons, one of which the legal reaction, or the judges delayed delisting due to some boundary problems with the distinct population segment. But secondly, and most importantly, the state of Wyoming did not have a state plan that the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service considered an adequate regulatory mechanism that would assure long-term wolf survival in that state. So, but now the state of Wyoming has produced a plan that is acceptable to the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, and they are part of the three-state plan to delist wolves. And so the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, as far as we know at this stage of the game, and there's still possibility that the Wyoming legislature, something might happen over there, but as of right now, the service is moving forward with it looks like the three states are in step to delist as early as the end of February of 2008, this coming February. Now there'll be a 30-day period from the end of February until the end of March until the rule takes effect. Once the rule takes effect, then it becomes the law of the land. Wolves will be delisted. But at that time, the Fish and Wildlife Service is expecting lawsuits, and probably several groups are already banding together. We're aware of several groups banding together to sue the Fish and Wildlife Service to prevent delisting. But it would be up to a federal judge at that time to impose an injunction that would prevent the delisting rule from taking effect. In other words, the law of the land is delisted unless a federal judge imposes an injunction that prevents that from happening. So with that knowledge and that time frame in mind, when Fish and Wildlife Service proposed their first delisting draft in last winter, spring, the State Fish and Game Commission directed staff to proceed with a state plan that would provide background information under the guidelines of the legislatively approved plan that would give us how we're going to manage the populations through regulated harvest and otherwise in the state of Idaho, similar to all of our other big game animals. Because once wolves are delisted, they immediately become listed as a state big game animal for Idaho Fish and Game, which immediately all of the laws that protect deer, elk, moose, sheep, goat will protect wolves. So that's our adequate regulatory mechanism in place with our state plan and our state laws that will protect wolves.